Welcome to TwinTech 2020, and welcome to our host's home, Impact House Chicago. We're so glad that you're here. You'll hear more about Impact House tomorrow when our Twin co-founder Howard Tallman interviews the founder Izzy of this great place. But today is more about connecting. Today is more about being together, reconnecting with other TWINians around the world. Whereas our mission here at TwinTech is to look beyond the pandemic, I want to make sure that everyone understands that we do so in full mindfulness of this very difficult and challenging year. Sure, there have been extraordinary opportunities and it's been exciting to see the changes that have occurred, but there have also been people who've faced extraordinary trauma, friends and family members whose lives have been impacted, whose businesses have been in distress. And we never lose sight of this. We keep all of them in our minds and hearts with compassion throughout the next 2.5 days. But as much as we confront trauma in the near term, we have a responsibility to look to the future with optimism and hope. We have a responsibility to ask, how can the world be better after trauma? In fact, during our finale, the last day on Thursday, great TWINian Jesus Montas will share his own story of confronting the trauma of stage 4 cancer and how to ask the question, even in the midst of that journey, how can we envision a better life beyond? And not as a platitude, not as a let's make the world a better place, but this is when the chips are down. This is when it is time to truly say, what can we do to make the world better, to make our futures better, and to make a better world for all of our children and our grandchildren. So this is the opportunity, this is the pivotal moment, and this is what we will explore over the next 2.5 days at TwinTech. Now, as all of our TWINians know, we never leave serendipity to chance. This is our guidepost at Twin. Bob, what are you doing? Bob Hendrickson, everybody, what are you doing here?
I'm here for TwinTech 2020.
So are we, Bob, and so is everybody else. But didn't you get the memo? It's all virtual this year.
Oh, gee.
You know, the whole COVID thing, right? Nice mask, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, well,
geez,
you know what?
About that.
Hey, Bob, since you're here, why don't you just sit down and join us?
Sure, thank you.
Great. Bob Hendrickson, everybody, a great entrepreneur from New York. You might have been able to tell him. Bob, by the way, feel free to take the mask off because we took the rulers out and we are 6.5 feet apart.
Perfect.
Each of the chairs is 6.5 feet apart, so we can be maskless with impunity.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Great. So how are you doing?
Doing okay. Yeah, all things considered.
That's great. And what a coincidence that you just happened to be walking by here in Impact House.
Amazing.
What brings you to Chicago?
Never leave serendipity to chance.
Yeah, never leave serendipity to chance.
I came to Chicago for TwinTech 2020.
We're glad you're here. And I think the last time we saw each other was 6 months ago before the lockdown.
7 months ago, I imagine, yes.
Wow, just like everybody else.
Crazy.
Great.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm going to continue with the segment for now, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
Great. So if you could just try and make yourself inconspicuous. Great to have you here with us. And pretty soon we're going to go on a tour around the world to visit our TWINians in a bunch of countries. So you can join me.
Fabulous. Thank you.
Okay. Sounds great. So with that, I'd like to continue.
Oh, Rob,
TwinTech.
I think their friend Sarah Elizabeth is here.
Sarah Elizabeth.
Hey,
Sarah Elizabeth Ipple, everybody.
Great
How
to
are
see
you?
you.
Have a seat.
Hi.
How could this be? Everybody's showing up. Is there anybody else out there waiting to get in? Should we set up a registration table? SE, by the way, welcome, and feel free to take your mask off. It turns out we are over 6 feet apart. So
Great.
we're totally fine. The CDC would be proud of us. So, so great to see you. Now, what brings you here to Impact House, coincidentally, and by the way, all suited up with microphones?
Never leave serendipity to chance.
Never leave serendipity to chance. So there you go. So it's great to see you non-serendipitously here at TwinTech. So I think you have some big news to share. I've been following, as you know, many of us have been following the Academy for Global Citizenship that SE founded 15 years ago, which is a great school in the south side of Chicago, it was the second poorest neighborhood in Chicago. It's had extraordinary numbers, extraordinary performance, and then in the past few years, SE and her team have been building a much bigger vision. What is that much bigger vision, SE?
Well, the much bigger vision is to really create a catalyst for reimagining the role of schools and communities and looking at the comprehensive challenges that exist on the Southwest side and in many cities across the country, and looking at how we can address multiple challenges, not only through education, but through community wellness, through environmental sustainability, and incorporating these other components to provide vital resources to some of our most underserved communities.
Well, but help me understand. So this isn't just programming at the school. This is bigger than that.
Exactly. It's a 6-acre development that will not only have the early childhood and kindergarten through 8th grade public schools, but will also have a 3-acre urban farm. We're in a food insecure community, and so addressing some of those broader challenges is absolutely critical. So the farm, a fresh foods cafe and farm store to increase food access. There's a community health center, a number of different kind of green spaces and orchards and community gardens and walking trails, again, to really invite the broader community in to learn alongside with us.
And so for those of us in the world joining who don't know the geography of Chicago, the Southwest side, where you're located, has traditionally been a very challenging part of the city. Blighted in many ways, not necessarily what people might call a food desert, often limited access to high quality food. Really challenging area, and your school has helped to really vitalize it quite a bit. This new vision, and it's, to underscore, a really big vision. You've been spending the last few years raising funds. You've received approval from the state of Illinois for a significant grant of funds in the $30 million range.
Exactly, $31 million investment from the state, because we really see this as an opportunity to create this incubator of innovation and an institute to train teachers. So far, we've been able to train 10,000 educators who've actually come from around the world to the Southwest side to learn about kind of the innovative approaches to take these back into their schools, back into their districts and countries, to impact now over 10 million students. So we're really excited about the momentum that's been built over the last 15 years, but even more excited to realize this broader vision for scale, to really create this prototype for community revitalization that can be scaled in cities across the country and across the world.
So using the school as an anchor to bring more resources, more people, more expertise, activity into a community as a catalyst for change in that community.
Precisely.
Great. Well, what's really exciting to me about it is you have this dozen years, 15 now, but before you even started that effort, you had a dozen years of proof that said we can make something significant happen in this community with the rules that have been set by the Chicago public school system, by all the powers that be. We can make change happen and quantifiably successful. And that's, I think, went a long way to help you build this not only vision, but also raise the money and the support to do this. It's really exciting. Now, of course, the obvious question, the elephant in the room, in all of our rooms, is how do you navigate this in the middle of a pandemic? So how has the pandemic impacted your path to this big vision?
Well, it's absolutely impacting the work that's happening today in our school. Fortunately, we have this 6-acre piece of land that we've purchased to build this net positive energy campus. We'll be the first in the state of Illinois, by the way, to achieve net positive energy living building status. So we're really excited to also be paving the way not only for innovation and education, but also showcasing these new renewable technologies and other kind of innovative methodologies to change the way that we're thinking about what's possible from an environmental standpoint.
So you've been using the 6 acres during the pandemic. So it's outdoors, it's there, it hasn't been built on yet, right? And so you've been bringing the school kids and teachers and all to that space?
Exactly.
Great.
We've given that we serve a 96% minority and primarily low-income student population, it's been absolutely essential that our students are coming in for some in-person assessment, not only in terms of their academic assessment, but really understanding the broader needs of our students and
Great.
families,
Great.
many of whom are experiencing food insecurity and homelessness and unemployment and health implications. And so looking at how we can really address those comprehensive needs. We've been in school, this is our 6th week back in school. So we've been at this now starting in early August.
So they're online most of the time, but sometimes they show up in person at the site.
Exactly.
Wow, that's great. Bob, what are your thoughts? You come from
sounds-
the great state of New York and New Jersey.
Sounds fabulous. Excited for you. That's great. Applaud your work in that regard. And New York is certainly have a bunch of nieces and nephews with small children now, and getting back to school is a super big challenge for them right now. And this is an initiative that could be
It sounds like maybe you could use one of these things in New York.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, Bob's from New York, if you haven't noticed, by the way. So how do we get one of these things in New York? How do we get one of these things in Oslo and Tokyo and Italy and Bulgaria and all the other places in the world? How do we do that?
Well, you've nailed it. That's the vision, right?
That's the vision.
Is that this really is a prototype. Just like we've scaled the methods to reach now over 10 million students, the idea is that this prototype is scaled around the globe. And so we're looking for people to join us. You know, we're looking for partners, both on there's going to be some of the most amazing new technologies showcased in this campus, and so we're looking for partners both in terms of corporate support. We've also got a bit of a fundraising gap, but also looking for people to come join us, come visit us and learn, visit us, safely, but learn about the work that's happening so that we can continue, advocating for this movement and for more of this innovation to be happening in cities.
Essie, this is really exciting. 10 years from now, because you've been at this 15, so I'm going to make a bet that you and your team will be much bigger, much better. 10 years from now, digital online is far better. Your program has expanded. What does the world look like in 10 years for your group?
Well, the work that we're doing is really at the intersection not only of some of the educational inequalities that exist and the achievement gap that exists in this country and beyond, but it's also at the center of racial injustice and environmental injustice. And so our hope and our vision for 5 to 10 years from now is that this model is expanded, as I mentioned, globally, and that these community hubs for learning, for wellness, for environmental justice are helping to not only cultivate this next generation of more mindful leaders and activists who are taking action to make the world a better place, but that there's also this ripple effect in terms of revitalizing these communities that are so greatly in need of these resources.
Great, and perhaps those communities not all around the country only, but all around the world. So thanks so much. And speaking of all around the world, we have a new designation at TWIN this year called Twin Siblings. What do we mean by this? Well, we've had long relationships with a number of innovation-focused organizations around the world, like the Japan Innovation Network in Tokyo, the Open Innovation Lab of Norway in Oslo, Norway, H-Farm in Italy, Webit in Bulgaria, a whole range of organizations that are our siblings. That simply means that we're brothers and sisters around the world. We share common missions and purposes, are complementary. We share insights and people, and we support each other. And with that, I'd love to turn to our one of our twin siblings. There's Truls Berg. Truls, how are you?
I'm fine. Good afternoon from Norway.
So how are you, Truls? How's the innovation group going?
Well, I think we're doing pretty okay. It's actually not good morning here in Oslo. It is good afternoon.
Yes,
we're approaching 4 o'clock.
So Truls, what's one thing that you would like all of our TWINians to know about the Oslo Innovation Network and about what you're doing, the Oslo Open Innovation Lab of Norway, what you're doing up in Norway?
Yeah, I really would like to take a couple of hours to tell you all the stuff that's going on.
Okay, great, Truls. So we'll see you later. This is now your segment. Okay, good. Go ahead, Truls.
But to cut it short, I think, speaking on behalf of 42 of Norway's most innovative companies, I think that obviously pandemic has changed a lot, but the best companies have tried to turn things around and have gotten to see some amazing results from putting innovation to work faster and in more creative ways than what I had deemed possible even 12 months ago, Rob. So Not only because you visited back in March, we just barely got you on the plane before the pandemic closed everything down, but I would say that both the Norwegian and the Nordic companies, the best ones, is taking innovation to its next level, and they're doing it by putting digital first. And it's also putting innovation really, really up at the CEO, CXO level where it belongs. So I'm quite happy and also quite proud on behalf of what's going on in Norway.
Yeah, I was quite impressed when I was there. What Truls was talking about was my visit. I returned home on March 8th. So I arrived home from Oslo on March 8th. My wife Ada and I took the kids out to our favorite Chinese restaurant for dinner. And then after that, we've been locked down since then. So this is sort of my first trip out into the universe since that lockdown. So the last place I was before the lockdown was Norway. And I'm hoping it'll be one of the first places I visit after things thaw out. And during that visit, Truls, we spent time with Posten, the Postal Service of Norway, which is a much bigger, broader business than just the Postal Service. And we also spent time with the largest bank in Norway, and it was quite exciting to hear what they were doing. But even before the pandemic, I think it's important in terms of their ability to adjust quickly. Their digital leadership was already well integrated and connected to the top leadership of both companies. So this was not a new thing for them, but it certainly did accelerate, as it did for everyone, accelerated their commitments to digital. So Truls, what's one thing you see on the horizon for the Open Innovation Lab of Norway? One thing that you'd like us to know about the future for oil and how we can engage as TWINians? How can we help you?
Well, I do think that we are seeing the role that 17 development goals, the sustainability development goals that the United Nations put together, really coming in and taking center stage and becoming part of almost all innovation efforts. I don't think that happens only in Norway, but I need to tell you that 42 years ago, a couple of Norwegian brothers started this company that were going to recycle bottles, and they had this vision of, and they put it up as a quote and saying, we want to recycle the world. And that was 42 years ago. And Petter Planke, one of those two brothers, are oldest member of Open Innovation Lab. And this company that they started, they still have close to 70% of the world market in recycling. Obviously, it's become a large company by now, but recycling is, and the whole sustainability and the whole new world coming out of all of those efforts are becoming part of innovation efforts in a way that we think is really, really great to see. That was part of when we opened up and we started Open Innovation Lab 7 years ago. We did say that we want this to be a building block, but no, it is really happening, Rob, and I do hope that we can see that in the rest of the world as well. But I do think that Norway is quite ahead of the curve. So look to Norway, come to Norway, and let's
Did you just invite us all to move to Norway, Truls? So Bob and Essie,
Yes.
let's look at tickets.
Absolutely.
Are there even flights that will allow Americans in? Will the country allow Americans into Norway these days?
Well, actually, we do. You need to spend 10 days, but we'll make sure that you spend those 10 days in a nice place.
Absolutely.
I have no doubt. 10 days sequestered on a fjord in Norway would not be the worst thing that could happen to us. So, Truls, we were talking.
Yeah.
We were talking about an initiative that SE, Sarah Elizabeth, who's with us here, has been building for the last 15 years, and it's onto another dimension now. There's a whole 6-acre campus devoted to the future and devoted to the SDGs, just as you said. But not just for people like us, but kids of all ages are addressing those challenges. You know, when you talk about your colleagues at the at the recycling company, for instance, the sustainability industry in Norway. Maybe there's an opportunity to bring them together with what SE's school is doing in Chicago and what SE's school is doing with educators and others in Norway.
We would actually love to be part of that, and we, as you mentioned in the beginning, we have some of the largest companies in Norway, and after all, it is all about trying to create a better future for our kids and the next generation. So, Elizabeth, love to talk more about that. And great to see you, Bob, on the stage there as well. And great to be part of this, Rob. And we're really, really looking forward to the next couple of days.
Great. Thanks again, Truls, and thanks for bringing Norway to us. We'll hopefully continue to bring the world to Norway.
We've been there before, you know.
You know, for a second, I thought, Truls, that was an American flag, and now I realize it's a Viking ship. So, you know, you were close. You just add some, you know, stars onto the stripes.
Yeah, we'll think about it, but you need to change your president first.
Yeah, well, let's not get too political here, but I'm with you, Truls. I'm with you, Truls. I think much of the world is. So, in any case, thanks so much for joining us. This is fantastic. If we could bring our friends in Italy on screen with us. So tell us about the new campus. What's the vision for this? And you just opened 2 weeks ago, correct?
Yeah, we did open 2 weeks ago with the new year, the new academic year. So we have a university, we have a school program that goes from kindergarten all the way up to high school. We opened 2 weeks ago, like you said, and the campus is full of children, full of young people doing their master program and degree program together in collaboration with the University of Venice. And it's great. It's really big. I mean, invite people to access the H-Farm website. You can actually see the video of the making of the campus and a little bit about the vision, which basically aims at creating a situation where we have education and innovation come together. So understanding what are the needs of the future for corporates and being able to actually work with kids throughout the development process to get to that place where they're future ready, like you said before. And it's great. It's really exciting.
Well, so you just opened 2 weeks ago. How has it been opening a physical campus? And I know you're digitally focused. How has it been opening a physical campus in the midst of a pandemic?
Yeah, so it's been very challenging. I mean, the team that has worked on the construction of the campus has been exceptional. They worked really solid and hard for about 8 months with 2 months of hard stop for the pandemic. Yeah. Of course, we're taking all the measures that are necessary just as they open the school. So, you know, there are restrictions, but we are, you know, trying to make it work also for the children themselves. They need to be able to be in a physical place, to interact with each other, to socialize. But we're trying to keep, you know, all the necessary measures to avoid this thing coming back again.
Yeah, and early on, of course, Italy, you'll all remember, was at the vanguard of the pandemic well before the United States recognized, for the most part, how serious this was going to be. And early on in that process, our friends at H-Farm reached out to me and said, we'd like to do something together. And that something became Afterwards. So the H-Farm team, and we can't really take any credit for it at Twin, they said if you could invite some TWINians to provide some statements, which we happily did, and everyone said yes. So these were brief 3, 4, 5-minute statements from each individual's perspective in a series called Afterwards that you can find on the H-Farm site, their thought leadership publication, Maze, which I highly recommend everybody take a look at. It's not only an insightful publication put out by H-Farm, but it's also beautifully done. And that's one of really the differentiators, Tomas and Mauricio and Moriella, that's one of the differentiators for H-Farm. Tell us a little bit about, let's go back in history a little bit. I mean, when I first met you, Mauricio, I was incredulous. I was skeptical that there was truly a digital future company of any sort in the countryside outside Venice, literally on a farm. And yet there you are, one of the most successful innovation ecosystems in the world. What's next? What's important from H-Farm's perspective that you would like all of our TWINians to know about the future, about where you're going?
Well, I'm just going to jump in because I think that actually you not believing that you can do innovation from the north of Italy in a little farm like Venice, next to Venice is actually, the pandemic was a proof that innovation can be done anywhere. So, it doesn't really matter where you are. I think it's probably about being able to create the ecosystem, the network, and bringing together all the right elements to make it happen. So this is what we're trying to do, and we're actually proving that even being in a little countryside around with a lot of corn around us, we can still do innovation. We can put up a school. We can be in touch with our friends, with TWINians, with whomever is part of our network to make it happen. So we are doing that.
And just to give people some context, how many people do you have when COVID aside, how many people do you have in this campus around Venice on a regular basis? And also your offices in Milano.
Yes. So we have an office in Milano on campus between the innovation practice that is actually working around innovation strategy with corporates. We have about 400 people that are distributed between here and Milano. In Milano, there are about 200 people, around 300 people here. And now we have also the campus, which has at the moment something around 500 or 600 students in this huge, huge location. It's actually pretty big. I mean, you really need to see it to be able to understand the magnitude and the size of this location.
It's going to be about 2,000 and 3,000 people, hopefully by the end of next year.
Yeah.
2,000 to 3,000 people on campus by the end of next year, physically on campus. And how does digital, other than in the curriculum, of course, how does digital and online play into your plans for the school?
Besides the curriculum, you mean of the students? So we actually try to work very hard on creating this bridge between what is innovation and consultancy and what is education. So trying to understand what are the skills, the capabilities, the attitudes that people need to be able to have, or children need to be able to develop throughout the years, and then being able to use digital tools to support that. We're not making digital our main focus per se. We're just using it as a tool to be able to accelerate learning, to access information, to connect with peers in other places around the world. So I think one of the most interesting parts of our campus is this connection between the two things. We're able to look at where we are and what are the requirements for the future for organization, for society, what are they looking for? And we were able to feed part of that into the campus and to the school system in order to be able to actually, create some programs that cultivate skills and certain abilities of people, not necessarily hard skills. We're also talking about soft skills. And it's interesting to see how the path is actually designed throughout the years.
Right. Well, regarding hard skills and soft skills, and Sarah Elizabeth knows this well at the Academy of Global Citizenship, I find it interesting that we refer to them as hard skills and soft skills because the hard skills are actually easier to automate. So those things we call hard skills over the next couple of decades will become the things that become less and less valuable in terms of an individual human being knowing how to do them themselves. Now, understanding how they work and why they exist, that's different. We need to know that. But it's really the soft skills that are far harder to become great at, and that's what is going to be expected of us as human beings. That's one of the things I love about H-Farm, which, by the way, everyone, means human farm. And I expressed to my good friend Mauricio Rossi that in English that sounds a little bit awkward, sort of like Soylent Green, but we'll let it pass. It's really more, to me, humanity farm. Every time I'm there, I feel filled with inspiration and just a general sense of well-being and optimism for the future. I have to say, we all need more of a sense of well-being and optimism for the future. So Mauricio, Tomas, and Moriela, thank you so much. Grazie for joining us today and sharing a bit of your story. I'm going to make sure that you are connected with Sarah Elizabeth so that we can get some of our kids from Chicago over to Italy at some point, and who knows where that might go.
That'll be amazing, and we look forward to seeing you all TWINians sometimes on a physical space.
In a physical plane. Great. Mille grazie. Ciao. Well, so, that's really exciting. Bob, that's one, you've been there with me to H-Farm, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. What was your impression of H-Farm?
It was wonderful. So the initiative was really well done and very impactful, and it was amazing how fast and large they've grown in such a short period of time.
Yeah, and you're just in cornfields, and then all of a sudden there's this innovation ecosystem with 300 or 400 people on it going to work every day.
Amazing.
Pre-pandemic. So anyway, they're a great partner. They're a twin sibling in Italy, twin sibling in Norway, twin sibling in Japan. There are 7 others around the world that we work with on various bases. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a brief break. We're going to say thank you to Sarah Elizabeth and to Bob for joining us in this serendipitous, what in many ways became far more serendipitous than we had perhaps anticipated.
So this is on steroids.
So as we say, we're going to continue to not leave serendipity to chance. So we'll be back after a short break with Brian Collins. Thanks, Bob, and thanks, Sarah Elizabeth.
Thanks, Rob.
Thank you, Rob. Thanks, Sarah.
Great.